Hello and welcome to the Keep It Local Maine podcast, where we tell the stories of local business owners and Maine residents and learn more about what they do, who and what inspires them, their challenges, successes, and more.
My name is Kimberly Regalinski.
And I'm Todd Regalinski.
And we are the publishers of Keep It Local Maine, a local magazine that helps showcase local businesses to people in and around their communities. Thank you for tuning in to our weekly podcast that you could subscribe to on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. You can learn more about Keep It Local Maine at keepitlocalmaine.com and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram through the links in the show notes. In this episode, we will be talking to author Anna Crowley Redding.
Before diving into the deep end of writing for children, Anna Crowley Redding's first career was as an Emmy-award winning investigative television reporter and journalist. The recipient of multiple Edward R. Murrow awards and recognized by the Associated Press for her reporting, Anna now focuses her stealthy detective skills on digging up great stories for young readers, which, as it turns out, is her true passion. Anna is the author of 4 published books and has 5 more on the way. Her first book, Google It, was named the best STEM book of 2019 by the National Science Teacher Association. She currently lives outside Portland, Maine. Welcome to the show, Anna.
Yes,
Thank
welcome.
you for having me. Thank you. What a nice intro.
We're so glad to have you here. We're so excited because we feel so privileged. We have our first author.
Yes.
Hey, I'm so glad to be the first.
Don't worry, Kim. I won't mention that you don't read that much.
It's okay.
Listen,
It'll
That's
be our
okay.
little secret.
Maybe we'll convince you.
yes, I actually just looking at the book, I'm so excited because I know my daughter's going to love this.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I can't wait to get it for her.
The artwork is
yeah,
really
the
cool.
artwork. Yeah, just amazing.
Vita Lane did such an awesome job, and she's in Dover, New Hampshire. And so she's not that far away. And just the way that she pulled all the texture and her color palette she chose for the book was a huge part in the storytelling, which was so cool, I thought.
That is so great. Yeah, it just captures you right from the beginning.
Yeah,
You know?
right from the cover. As soon as I saw the cover, I was like, I kind of want to read this.
Yeah, it's super exciting. So I wanted to ask you, Anna, how did you go from reporting to writing?
Well, there's a lot of writing in reporting. And so, it was actually very helpful for this process because when I was a reporter, I was writing on deadline every day. You have to have something written, shot, and edited at 5:00 or it's going to be dead air. And you learn to kind of internalize that pressure. And so with writing books, it's totally different. Like the sky's the limit, take all the time you need. But if you get into that zone too much, you'll never complete a project. So writing for reporting on deadline has really helped me in terms of writing for kids. But when I was a reporter, in Charlotte, North Carolina at my last stop because, TV careers, you like bounce all over the place. And I was working all the time and actually saved my last schedule so I could look at it and remember, don't ever go back. Because it was so just go all the time. So eventually I had my 2 little boys and just decided, I want to go in a different direction. And so I was taking my little guys to the library one day and I said, you can do anything you want. Just follow your dreams. And, one of those rah-rah speeches that we give our kids. And I thought to myself, you know what, there's a dream that you have not followed, Anna. And that was a dream that I'd had since I was a little girl. And that was to write for kids. And I was like, you know what, even though you kind of get into this mode when you're a parent where you're like, okay, it's all about my kids now. I've lived my life. And what you don't realize is you're still young. You still have a lot to do and a lot to say. And so I really started studying the craft of writing for children, which is different in a lot of ways than writing for television. And at first it felt like I was at the bottom of Mount Everest and having to climb. But step by step, I made progress and eventually got there.
That's amazing. I just got goosebumps as you were talking. I was like, I just love that. Just that whole, we people tend to give up on their dreams. They think, this is a time in my life and it's, now that I've had kids, I really can't pursue that dream, but it's just it's so great to hear you say that, so that that it doesn't matter how late it is. You still have that, time to really move forward and follow that.
And it doesn't matter. And one of the greatest things about this journey for me personally is sharing it with my children who are now in 3rd grade and 6th grade, and my partner's children who are in 10th grade and 7th grade, and being able to share this experience with them,
So great.
being able to take them into a bookstore when they're open and we're not in a pandemic, and let them see, it's there on the shelf. And I think that in writing for children specifically, we see a lot of teachers who are retired and say, I've always wanted to write for children, and they get started. I've seen people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s publish their very first book. And that is so exciting to me. It's inspiring.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, so I think you've kind of answered the question I had next, which was, the specific reason that you wanted to write for children and young adults. But do you feel there's still motivated on that? Do you still feel that's what you want to do for the foreseeable future? Or do you think, you know what, maybe I'd like to write something that's, either young adult then heading into maybe kind of more adult novels, or do you just really have a passion for this that you don't see going away?
I have a passion for writing, period. I think, and not just writing for the sake of it, but writing for the sake of inspiring the reader. And so I write from 3 years old all the way through teen for now. And that's not to say that I don't have ideas for the adult audience as well. But one of the things that I love writing about, one of the books that I wrote was about Elon Musk. And this was a young adult biography. And Elon Musk, of course, is the CEO of Tesla, and the CEO and founder of SpaceX, sending all these amazing rockets into space. And one of the things that moved me the most about Elon was learning that when he was a little boy, that he was horribly bullied. I mean, there was a group of kids who hunted him down. He was the smallest kid in class. They hunted him down and they kicked him down a flight of concrete steps and knocked him unconscious. Oof. He was in the hospital. And he really sort of found his sanctuary in books, in comic books, in sci-fi, in acquiring knowledge. Mm-hmm. Eventually, he shot up beyond 6 feet and punched the bullies in the face, and that was the end of that. But one of the things that struck me about that is that so often we see people who we say are successful or important or whatever they are, and you don't realize that this is a human being, and this human being had a terrible time. And what was it that got them through that terrible time? And for Elon, it was his dreams. I'm going to change the world. I recognize the world is at risk of climate change, that we need to be a multiplanetary species, etc. And that drove him out of that dark period and into what he's doing now. That kind of passion, whether it's about protecting your soup or saving the planet, I love that. And it's interesting to me. And I guess I want kids and young people to read it and to get as excited about the world we're living in as I am.
Yeah.
That's great. I love that. So how did you come across the story for this book? Like, how did that come to?
I still read, I read newsletters all the time. I read the wires all the time. It's like a bad habit I can't kick. When I
Once a news junkie, always a news junkie.
It's terrible. Sometimes to calm myself down, I actually listen to the scanner. It's ridiculous. But I was reading this newsletter from the New England Historical Society, and it just brought me back to when I was a kid and I had gone out to eat as a special treat out to lunch at like a white tablecloth restaurant and ordered chowder, and they delivered like this red soup. And I remember being horrified and bursting into tears. And so reading that there was this Maine state lawmaker that wanted to try to make it illegal to put tomatoes in clam chowder, I was dying. I just was dying laughing because I related to it at that kid level.
Yeah. So I just want to read the description of your newest book, which is called Chowder Rules, the true story of an epic food fight, which Oh, I'm envious of the title. Forget the book itself. I see that title, I'm like, oh man, come on.
Todd's a writer too.
So the description is, what kind of fearsome food fight could draw in baseball great Joe DiMaggio? A fight over chowder. It all started with a Maine lawmaker who adored his beloved steamy, creamy, dreamy clam chowder. News that Manhattanites were plunking tomatoes into the chowder pot had Representative Cleveland Sleeper. Oh, they don't make names like that
They
anymore,
really
by the way.
don't. I know. I swear it's true.
Seeing red, not his favorite soup, so he proposed a bill to make it a crime to add tomatoes to clam chowder. New Yorkers were offended. A war of words raged until finally a duel of chefs settled the matter once and for all. I mean, that is a great story. It's one of those things where you're like, that couldn't have happened. No, it actually did.
It did. And it was like all the research I did into this story, like every little piece of new information was like more outrageous than the last. Like one of the judges was the lady that invented chocolate chip cookies who judged the like cook-off. Yes. And I was just dying. And then the Joe DiMaggio that he got himself, he like debated Cleveland Sleeper on the radio. And people were listening across the country.
And you know what? I never would have thought of Joe DiMaggio as one of the great debaters of our times, but maybe I'm wrong.
He was a tomato lover. A tomato lover.
Now I see the entry point.
Yeah.
Joe also had a stake in a tomato farm somewhere along the way.
Right. Well, he had a restaurant that served Manhattan clam chowder. And New York Public Library actually still has a copy of the menu. And I was just dying. I was like,
oh my God.
You can't make it up.
Yeah, it's so awesome.
That's wonderful. Oh man, I love stories like that.
Yeah.
So, do you have a writing process? Is it kind of the same with every book, or does it vary a little bit?
It varies. You know what the most important part, and children's writers say this all the time, is butt in the chair. So that means I can be daydreaming about stories or staring off into space, but at the end of the day, I need to sit my rear end into a chair and put my fingers on the computer and actually put words on the page. And so making myself do that and giving myself permission to write a sloppy first draft. Once I get past that, then for me, the really fun part starts, which is playing with word choice and pacing and tension and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Where is the fun for you in the process? Because I imagine there has to be some sort of joy or some sort of fun in some part of the process. Is it in the actual, like, I spent this much time writing and I enjoy that, or is it in the kind of the discovery of the story or the research? Or
I love two parts of it the very best. The research, I love digging into it. It's like being on a treasure hunt for me. That's what it feels like. Or a scavenger hunt, and you found all the things. I love that because as a kid, I could never find all the things in the scavenger hunt. So, but I just love digging and digging and digging through records, old newspapers, whatever it is. And so that part of it is super fun. And then I love word construction. And so being able to write, for example, in this book that a bite of this soup was the state of Maine in a single bite. I was so excited when I wrote that sentence. So sometimes it's just the way words come together. And that's in the revision process. It's not like the first draft comes out like that. But in the revision process, when you're playing around with the language and picking different descriptive words or vocabulary words that you just love. And in this case, using a lot of language about food, saying that, the cook-off, tickets to the cook-off sold like hotcakes. You're just having fun with that. I really enjoy that.
That's
awesome.
That's
great. And I'm sorry, to Kim, I'm kind of monopolizing here. I'm coming up with questions as we go. So could you kind of tell us what the process is like working with an illustrator on a children's book? Yeah. Like how does that whole process go? So
it's really different for fiction and nonfiction. Typically in children's books, the author writes the words, and that all is goes to the editor on the project at the publisher. And then there's also an art director at the publisher who deals directly with the illustrator. And usually in that process, the illustrator and the author have minimal communication. It all goes through these channels. With nonfiction, it's way more collaborative because you are dealing with, in this case, the 1930s. So you have to make sure that historically it's all accurate. What the furniture looked like, what the kitchen looked like, what Portland looked like then. So there is more back and forth in terms of sharing the research. But it's you want to be careful as an author because you don't want to undermine the illustrator's creative process, because what they bring to the project with their visual storytelling is so impressive and makes the project so much richer. So it is kind of a balance of offering help and support with the historical details, but trying to stay out of their creative process. It is very rewarding because when you're writing a book, of course, you can see it visually in your mind. But professional illustrators bring so much more than I could ever have imagined for any story I'm working on. And that part of it is so exciting.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I'll finally let you ask your question.
What would you say? What would you say is one of the biggest challenges that you've faced this year in the season that we're in?
I think that, as a mom, juggling, guiding the children through this process and trying to work at the same time. I know that almost every parent I've spoken to has said the same thing. I think additionally, doing creative work is difficult because it requires so much of your internal world, and you're giving so much of that right now just to keep the kids on track and to keep everyone's academic progress moving forward, to keep their mental health supported, and all the food we're cooking right now. Personally. So it's a busy time. And so trying to find a new balance in that and new wells of energy, I'm not going to lie, there have been days when it's been very, very difficult.
Yeah, I definitely can relate. Yeah, for sure. Especially being self-employed and being a business owner, it's juggling those things, trying to find a new way to live.
And a new way to do business too.
Yeah.
Without having story times, where you see kids in person when you're reading to them is one of the joys of doing this. But, I have found now doing virtual events that the kids can participate in polls and other things. It just took a while to figure out, what does this look like? Right. Using technology and sort of making a radical pivot to try to embrace what's happening instead of bemoaning that it is happening. And that was hard. That took some work and some support from my partner, who's been awesome.
That's awesome.
So do you have a favorite author or authors? And do you have like a book that you would say, like in the last, just say, year that you've read that's like, I think more people should read this book?
I love everything that Kate Quinn writes. She writes for adults historic fiction, but her research is unbelievable. The Alice Network, and she's written that's about female spies in World War I and World War II. And her author notes at the end of these books are so extraordinary. It's kind of a treat to get to the end and read her author notes to see who the characters were based on, how she did her research, and all of that. I just think they're amazing. I have always loved P.J. Woodhouse for his use of language, an English writer. He did the Bertie and Wooster series that the actor Hugh Laurie brought to life in the 80s, late 80s. Oh. But I love those writers. And then in terms of children's books, right now, there are so many incredible children's books that are coming out that really, we have a diversity of voices and topics. And one of my favorites is called I Am Enough. And it is about that while I may be different from you and you may be different from me, we have something to offer each other, and I am enough. And I think that message is so powerful, not only for children, but for adults too. And especially right now, I feel like when we are so hard on ourselves of, oh, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, I'm not being productive at my normal level, just reinforcing constantly that message, I am enough, is really helpful right now.
Yeah, absolutely. For
Yeah.
sure. So how do you define success in business or in life? How do you define that?
I kind of break that down. Number one, is there food on the table?
Mm.
Yes. So that's a win. I think too that the next part of it for me is, did I enjoy the day's work? I love working hard, whatever it is, but did I enjoy the day's work? And that for me, honestly, is success. I think that having that ability to do something that you feel passionate about, that you aren't dreading every minute of the day, is really a gift and a privilege, and I really appreciate it.
That is huge, isn't it? To
Mm-hmm.
actually wake up and be like, I get to do this,
Yes.
and I get to do this, and it actually brings you joy. I love that. Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's not to say it's sunshine and roses every single
Exactly.
second, but the thorns of this particular bush I can handle.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. And actually, just a quick question that I forgot to ask earlier. Do you have like a daily routine or a daily writing routine or just an overall routine that you feel is worth sharing?
Well, there's pre-pandemic. There's pandemic.
Yes.
Yes.
Good call.
Pre-pandemic, you get up, the children are off to school, you sit down and work. Now it's they have different various schedules, and so some of that's the same, but when possible, I try to either get up a little bit early to collect my thoughts, to start my day, and to sort of set the course for calm. And then in the evenings, I try to see if I can still give 30 minutes or 60 minutes more, whether it's responding to emails or social media, that kind of stuff that doesn't necessarily take, like creativity in terms of writing manuscript. It's a different type of creativity. It's not quite as taxing for me as writing manuscripts. So I try to preserve the writing the manuscript for the time when the kids are engaged with their schoolwork.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
so it's kind of a juggle right now. It's a little bit of juggle, but I feel like getting used to that. And I'll tell you one thing that has really helped me with that is getting some kind of exercise first thing in the morning. Getting some kind of exercise. I don't feel like I have to post on Instagram that I'm the next Olympian, but just like moving my body, even for 10 minutes really helps.
That's great.
Yeah, I think that is a big challenge for people who have a job where their job means that they have to kind of be in one place and focus for long-ish periods of time. Is that doesn't lend itself to moving about a whole lot, and having that is a huge thing that can easily get left in the dust in these schedules that we're trying to run right now.
Absolutely.
Truly. And I feel like, you're kind of thinking like, you know what, I can't believe she said that. I don't even have 5 more minutes of energy to give to anything. I have found that while it is counterintuitive, that some kind of movement, even a walk around the block, just gives me more juice to accomplish what I need to accomplish quicker, more efficiently, and to do better work.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I agree. And I found that myself.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, who or what would you say inspires you?
That's a hard one. I think what inspires me is this idea. When I was in journalism school, I went to Northeastern, and I decided to take a public policy analysis class because I wanted to understand how government put laws together and policy together. I wanted to understand it for the purpose of being able to figure out where they had blown it. So I signed up for this course, and lo and behold, former governor of Massachusetts, Michael Dukakis, was teaching the class. And I told him why I was there. I'm basically taking this class so I can give your fellow politicians a tough time as a reporter. And he found that amusing. And one of the things that I learned from him that has kind of set my course is how important it is to make a meaningful contribution to the communities around you, whether that's local, state, national, global, whatever, but how important it is to make a meaningful contribution. I think that way of thinking, that way of life has inspired me more than anything else.
That's awesome.
That's great.
That's really good. Yeah.
Okay, before we get to the last question, could I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Okay, I know. Because I'm looking at Kim because she usually gives me this look like you're messing up the outline.
No, it's okay. Todd, see, and Todd is actually a writer too. So this is he's asking these questions for personal reasons as well.
Taking notes.
He's literally taking notes right now because he is a writer as well.
You're not supposed to say that.
Well, what are you writing, Todd? Let's talk about you.
Oh no! We don't need to talk about me, right? This is. We already interviewed ourselves on the first episode of this podcast. That way, we never have to talk about it again.
You can send the manuscript.
So,
yeah, do.
What advice would you give to a writer who is starting out, either young writers or older writers or whatever? What advice would you give about that kind of getting going in it?
Well, I want to tell you that the one way to know whether or not you are really and truly a real writer is to believe in your soul that you are not.
This sounds very familiar, actually.
So if you are wondering if people are going to discover that you're not really, truly a writer, then that's it. You are one. Truly, I think part of it is just accepting this imposter syndrome and learning to live with it. And then to recognize the bravery of sitting down and writing anyway.
That's amazing. That's so powerful.
Yeah.
That's so powerful.
It's so true.
I needed to hear that today.
Just in reading about other writers, that's always kind of the thing. Like, I always sit there and question whether or not I can do this. I'm like,
that's so amazing. Yeah, that's great.
The first time that our agency, which is actually located in Maine, so the literary agency that represents me is located in Maine. And every year, normally, we have a big retreat. And in this agency represents some of the biggest authors in children's industry. And I was very intimidated. And I went in, and the head of the agency, Erin Murphy, said, hello, everybody. Welcome. And I want you to know that every single one of you is here because you belong here. And I literally burst into tears and started sobbing uncontrollably.
That's amazing. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, it's true.
That's a beautiful moment.
It is beautiful. It's because I think people just think that they're unworthy and, that they don't. So that's amazing.
Yeah, it was a great moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we always like to kind of bring it back to Maine, and when we kind of wrap this up, and this has been so much fun. I just feel like I've learned a lot through this.
I've loved it.
It's really great. But what is your favorite thing, Anna, about Maine, or some of your favorite things about Maine? What do you love about Maine?
I love the state. My family is originally from New England, but I was born in the South, and I lived all over the place. And Maine is my favorite place. I love it. I love the look of it, whether in the woods or by the coast or out on an island or in the mountains. I love it. And I really love the people. I love how down to earth the people are, how helpful, hardworking. It's just an amazing place. And it's something that is never lost on me. I think about it every single day, and I talk to the children about it every day, because we live in such a special part of the world. And I can say that. I mean, I went to school in Italy. I also love Italy, don't get me wrong, but Maine is my number one. Maine is my number one. And I love it here. And
awesome.
And I'll be here forever.
That's great to hear. And we make sure you patch that up with the Italian market. You don't want to get short. Well, thank you so much, Anna, for taking time out of your day and talking with us. This has been, like Kim said, this has been a great conversation. We both have learned a lot and really enjoyed this time that we've gotten to spend with you. We'll be sure that we put all of the links to your social media and as well as your website in the show notes. Also, there'll be links where you can buy Chowder Rules, the true story of an epic food fight. Get that on Amazon Bookshop. You can also get signed copies from Print a Bookstore, I believe is that I'm saying that right?
Yes, thank you.
And I'm actually really excited this is on Bookshop, because that has become one of my favorite places to get books, because especially now where like you said, you can't really go to a bookshop, which really is a very big bummer for me, but it has also saved me a lot of space concerns, because otherwise I would be building new shelves. But Bookshop is actually great because they pull from local bookshops all across the country to fulfill orders and stuff. So that's a real cool thing.
Great. And
It's
this is
awesome.
a great book for the holidays, friends. So this is, if you have someone buy this book for the holidays, I will be getting it for my daughter. So I'm super excited.
Yeah,
Yay,
so
thank you.
Oh, thank you, Anna. We really appreciate it, and you have a fantastic rest of your
Yes.
day.
Thank you so much.